Hello, everybody. I'm Beau.
And I'm Adam.
The usual's not happening this week because it's been rough
Oh
getting
my
anyone
God.
together this week.
Between people being sick, you're having
My
crazy
whole
work
family went
hours.
through the sickness. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I have
crazy work
horrible
hours.
work hours right now.
I just started a new position over at the hospital, and Don and Luke have been kind of hard to wrangle here lately. Luke's had some family things going on, and Don just in general with the newspaper, the holidays, and all the New Year stuff.
Getting
going
the
on.
scoop.
Yeah, he is out there getting the scoop. Because he's the only professional reporter writer out of all of us.
Oh, and it shows.
Yes,
it
it
shows
does.
so much. So this is going to be a lot more casual than the normal ones. Don's a pretty harsh taskmaster when you've got him on the mic. He's
Oh yeah.
like if you chase a rabbit, like he is wrangling that back.
Yeah. So what's in respects to Don? What is the topic for this week?
I can't win. I can't ever have any
No,
banter.
no.
No. You were talking about wanting to check out the Final Fantasy VII remake.
I am, and JRPGs right now have been a huge thing for me in the recent weeks. Most specifically, I've been playing Breath of Fire 2, and oh my God, Bo, 1994 SNES capabilities beyond what I would have thought.
Yeah. And I talked about this a little bit on the Let's Play that I never finished of Secret of Mana. There is so much charm to 16-bit graphics. There's so much
right
that they could do, and you're kind of and that's what kind of gets me is because as I talk about this list, you were kind of wanting me to talk to you about JRPGs and kind of get you in the mindset to play.
Yes,
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
We just because of the on the Switch, the Super Nintendo Online. Like after we finished,
Which I think Breath of Fire 2 just came live on. It's fairly
if it did, I didn't
added.
realize that.
Yeah.
But we just finished up the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 because it was a pretty short game. Like it took us 12, 13 hours to beat. So Luke and I were sitting around on Sunday just wondering what to do. We didn't have any new games to play. We'd already beaten Fallen Order, and we played the snot out of everything else that we have for the Switch. So we just started going through the Super Nintendo Online library, and we came across Breath of Fire 2. I was convinced that there was a Breath of Fire person in Super Smash, but then I was wrong. I was getting confused with
Hero?
With other games. No, not with Hero, but with just other general games. The Fire Emblem characters, I think I was confusing some of them for Breath of Fire, but it didn't turn out to be the case. But anyway, we started going in on Breath of Fire 2, and something crazy was happening. So right there at the beginning of the game, when you're kind of finding out who you are and what the game's all about, it takes you up
that
to
game's
this,
got a lot of disposition, actually.
It takes you to this cave. And before you go in there, you see this kind of just still shot of a dragon just laying on the cliffside. But you go into this cave, and as you're winding around, like there's the for lack of better words, the fog of war is around you. You've only got what your torch can see, and you see this pink 16-bit pixelated tail. And you're following it, and every time you get closer to it, it stops for a moment, and it keeps going away.
Yeah.
And it just creates that sense of suspense and what's around the next corner. And it's just crazy to see that conveyed through something as crude to our eyes now, as crude as those 16-bit graphics.
Video games are interesting in that video games storytellers in the past with video games dealt with something that horror, science fiction, and fantasy filmmakers dealt with in the past, and that is limitations of the technology of their day.
Right.
In fact, if you remember when the prequels came out, we were preteens when the prequels were coming out, into teenagers. We became teenagers as they were coming out, but the largest criticism of them was the implementation of new technology.
Yeah.
People loved the charm of a puppet. The reason Yoda was a puppet was because George Lucas couldn't do it any other way and have it look as good. And I admit, although I do like the prequels and I love the prequels, I do like the sequels. There is I love the way the old space battles looked, and those were, of course,
Oh
models.
yeah.
So Lucas, through the limitations of his day,
Yeah.
and especially in the first film, the limitations that he had, because Star Wars was not an international success when he filmed Star Wars.
Right.
It was just a movie. But through those limitations, he found a way to tell the story, and that's what old video game directors had to deal with a lot.
Right.
A lot of the ways you would play this game happened because of the limitations. Of course, now that I'm on the spot, I can't think of any. Any other time, I'd be rattling off all these things. But for instance, everyone always thought there was it was a silly thing to add into Ultima 1, the space battle.
Oh,
There's
right.
a space battle in Ultima 1, and the reason why was because Richard Garriott had extra disk space.
Yeah.
And he thought it was wasting money not to fill the rest of the disk space.
Yeah.
But and that's sort of but anyway, we're getting off topic. I'm going to play Dawn this time. So as we move closer to the Final Fantasy VII Remake, you've been very curious about this game. At first, you were wondering the difference between a remaster and a remake.
Yeah,
which,
that
of course,
one
a
hit me
remake is
really
they rebuild
hard.
the game from the ground up.
Yeah.
A remaster is they just make it look better.
Well, they have a whole sea of games that they're bringing back because they're kind of understanding that our generation has hit that 30-year-old limit, and now we've got some disposable income.
Nostalgia is strong in this generation.
Right. So you're seeing all these things just kind of get a graphical uplift. And I thought, oh, awesome. I didn't own a PlayStation back in the day. I'm finally going to get to experience Final Fantasy on a medium that not only I could obtain, but it'll be more modern graphics, and it'll convey the story to me a little better. What at the beginning I was saddened to hear is it's not just a graphical update of it. It's a whole new thing.
It will play differently, and certain story elements will be different as well. Numbers
that
already
said,
confirmed.
it's still a JRPG.
Mm-hmm.
And after as much fun as I had with Dragon Quest XI, I don't think I really care that it's going to be a different story.
So, well, I don't know that we'll talk exactly about 5 games, but I'm going to I'm going to tell you
at
about
least some that I should get under my belt before.
To understand
what is
the
it,
genre
April?
of our,
they pushed back.
Yes, they pushed back to April 10th.
Yeah.
To understand the genre of JRPG a little better, and JRPG, for those that don't know, Japanese role-playing game.
Right.
The reason that is a distinction is because of the early pioneers of the genre. Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, while they did borrow a lot from Western series like Ultima, like Wizardry, and Might and Magic, they immediately, within their first games, established a distinct flavor that just sort of became RPG fare as time went on in Japan. It's there's tropes that have developed over the years, and honestly, if you've already played Dragon Quest XI, that is the perfect modern intro to the JRPG. And what the critics hated about it, and what fans loved about it, especially longtime Dragon Quest fans like myself, what we loved about it was just how unapologetically traditional Dragon Quest XI was.
Oh my God. I think I spent 60, 70 hours on that game.
It's just such a breath of fresh air because starting around the PlayStation 3 360 generation, we just wanted everything to be so original in JRPGs, and we lost that sort of classic flavor. And so Dragon Quest XI definitely brought that back and just brought it to the forefront, and just so unapologetic, in your face about it.
Yeah.
Very grindy.
Very
the classic storyline of an evil lord. Stuff like that. Dragon Quest XI, I think, is a perfect intro, and it's funny because Final Fantasy, with each new release, we're getting an entirely different game, and it's cool because the theme to Final Fantasy is change, and the theme to Dragon Quest is tradition.
Correct.
And that's something I've always loved. But so I think Dragon Quest XI should be at the top of that list of games to get you ready for the JRPG genre. But since you've already played it, I think Breath of Fire 2 being in the middle of that, I think, is great because that's just such a good, like, iconic 16-bit era. It's not like a Icon. It's not like a Nirvana.
Yeah.
But it's like a Mudhoney or something.
Well,
it's a good band to listen to get into that era.
It's Alabama.
Oh yeah, it's arena for arena. If JRPGs were arena country,
Yeah.
Breath of Fire 2 would be Alabama easily. Not almost no one's favorite,
Right.
but everyone loves it when it
Yes.
comes on.
We have a couple songs we know, and we're gonna play. It won't be the whole album, and I'm actually finding that out with Breath of Fire 1 because Breath of Fire 1, it's crazy what they did in a year. That one came out in 1993. Breath of Fire 2, if I saw correctly, was 94. Um, but you can tell they hadn't quite figured out the UI that's so mainstream to us today, just between those two games. And that one's a little more crude to get through.
Oh yeah, and Breath of Fire. I can't remember who did that.
Squaresoft.
Was it Squaresoft? I feel like Squaresoft
Capcom,
published it, and Capcom developed it. I
Capcom
think.
was in there too.
So Squaresoft was the name in the West for JRPGs.
Yep.
Whereas in Japan, it was very Enix and Squaresoft going at it. Enix had Dragon Quest, and Squaresoft, of course, had Final Fantasy. And, of course, in 2004, 2005, this would no longer matter.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest, a huge merger happened.
Yeah.
But so to prepare you for Final Fantasy 7, if you can't tell by my attire, those of you watching on YouTube, I'm in a very Akira Toriyama mood.
Yeah.
I've got the Make Gohan Great Again hat.
Yeah.
I've got the Goku sweater. And Kakarot was released yesterday.
That one, I wish it was on Switch so bad.
Oh, Kakarot. It's on Steam.
All right.
Yeah, it's on Steam, but it's so good. If you like Dragon Ball Z at all, or actually, Kakarot's not going to get you ready for Final Fantasy VII Remake, but play it just because you've never you didn't watch the Dragon Ball Z, did you?
I caught episodes of it, but I can't say that I've watched the whole season.
You'll experience the whole story of the entire series differently than you would if you watched the anime.
Is it young Gohan or older Gohan?
Well, it's Goku, so it'll
Sorry,
be young
Goku.
but it's only Z, so it starts when Goku's already married and has Gohan.
Gotcha.
Whereas Dragon Ball would begin with Goku as a child.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun so far. You really just feel like you're playing the anime.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm in that kind of mood. But a really essential JRPG. I don't know if you've played it or not. But Akira Toriyama did the character design for it. It was his first time working for Squaresoft. Chrono Trigger. I think that is just JRPG 101.
I have played through most of it. I think on my file I'm like level 40 and I'm getting towards the end of it. But I haven't.
Have you gone through the Kingdom of Azeel yet?
I'm not gonna lie, it's been almost a year.
Well, that's where Magus is from.
Still would have to go back and remember.
Oh, because wow, that's a pretty major plot point. So you really need to dig back into that because that's a. But yeah, super good story, and I hate time travel stories. I hate them. I think they're cheap and stupid.
There is a lot of it. I won't lie. Like if I was a kid playing this back on my Super Nintendo and I didn't have a player's guide, oh my god, a lot of it I wouldn't have guessed.
But the 16-bit graphics had finally gotten to the point where they were starting to capture Toriyama's charm.
Yeah.
Whereas he did the he did the character design for the first 4 Dragon Quest games.
Yeah.
But those 8-bit graphics, you couldn't really tell. That's why it was so easy to make the artwork more Dungeons and Dragons-y when they brought it over to the West.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't really tell.
Yeah.
It was a pretty easy paycheck for Mr. Toriyama.
Right. Right. But, the anime cutscenes in it were fun. I did love that.
Oh, and Chrono Trigger, which was added to the PlayStation version.
Yeah.
But when we get to the Super Nintendo, they were really able to move that in there. And the personality of these characters, Squaresoft took a page from Dragon Quest and Enix in this sense, in that Toriyama just does the visual design for these characters, but they give them very Toriyama personalities.
Oh, yeah.
And this translated into a Chrono Trigger, and it was really just Squaresoft sort of jacking their rivals' style.
Yeah.
And it turned out so well. It's a beautiful game. Chrono Cross, the sequel on PlayStation, was nowhere near as good.
That's what I heard.
I still think it's a good, solid game. I don't think it's anywhere near as... And
really?
You got to understand, as the 90s went on, JRPG just started blowing up. Like, you couldn't get enough of them.
Yeah.
It was a...
Now, what's interesting, I noticed in Breath of Fire 2 that I actually really wanted to ask you about today, is how much Zelda influence was in that. because the highlighted words, the kingdoms, the you're the knight sort of thing.
And that might have been played up more in the Western localization. But that was another thing was The Legend of Zelda, while not a JRPG in any sense,
No, but it's darn close.
it had a lot of influence over them. In fact, in the very original NES release of Final Fantasy, when you go to the Elf Kingdom, there's a graveyard, and one of the graves that you read will say, "Here lies Link."
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
And it was because Squaresoft recognized that a major competitor, even though they weren't in the same genre,
Yeah.
because you see the swords, you see the castles, the comparison was going to be made. In later releases, it goes on to say, "Here lies Erdrick," referring to their rival, Dragon Quest. Even after the merger re-releases of Final Fantasy, which Final Fantasy the original gets re-released all the time, but they still maintain the Erdrick, because they have access to the rights to the name of Erdrick, whereas Link is a bit murky territory.
Sure.
They're dealing with the Disney of video games at that point.
Yeah.
So I would strongly suggest going back and playing Chrono Trigger again, completing Chrono Trigger. I think that is just JRPG 101. I think Breath of Fire 2 is an excellent one, again, because it's just a real...
Oh, we're having a blast with that one.
It's just a real genre staple.
Yeah.
Luke
and I were actually sad we didn't record what we were doing because we were just so engaged talking with each other while we were playing through it.
I think I think another great JRPG, and it's the one that really solidified what JRPGs would be for the rest of the decade of the 90s, and that was Final Fantasy VI. It was originally released in the West as Final Fantasy III.
Yeah.
Because we had only gotten 2 of
does
them
that
before.
one have does that one have a Switch release?
Not yet.
They're going through a lot of them.
You could play it on
like
almost
10,
anything else.
12, X2. I think 8 is a download now.
8 remastered
7 might be on there.
7 is on there.
I don't know if 6 is, though.
6 is not.
Oh,
not yet,
okay.
to the best of my knowledge. But 6 is a beautiful game. It has a very dark tone to it. And it's where the story of a JRPG became more than just the Dark Lord's over here and you have to kill them.
Right.
This is a very complex story. It has a very interesting villain, Kefka, who's just absolutely batty.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely insane. So there's no... And JRPGs and anime actually have a little thing in them that I really like, and that is they don't really bother you with a relatable villain.
Yeah.
And the relatable villain, I get it. Like, Magneto's a great villain because several times watching X-Men, you'll think, wow, he's kind of right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and people say that makes it more realistic. I say that makes it less realistic, because how many times did American GI sit around like, whoa, do we really want to kill Hitler? Maybe he's got a point. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes in real life, people are just villainous.
Yeah.
They're just bad people.
The way it is in, I mean, there was nothing to suggest that there was any other motive other than world domination in Dragon Quest XI.
Yeah, in Dragon Quest, that's another thing I love about
He literally looks like a devil.
Yeah, he's the Dark Lord.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. You know, you got your heroes, you got your Dark Lords, all right?
Right.
We make each other work.
Right.
But in Dragon Quest Yuji Horii is very big on that. He's a very traditional storyteller.
Right.
What engages you in Dragon Quest is the characters.
Yeah.
It's the cast and the way that this happens, because of course, what I loved about Dragon Quest XI is you're the luminary.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you were told to go see this king.
Yeah.
And it's playing up like this big thing, and then it turns out the king imprisons you.
Yeah.
And of course, you find out later, humongous spoiler, you find out later that the king was possessed by the Dark Lord.
Yeah.
But the reason he gives when he imprisoned you is, if you're back, that means the Dark Lord's on his way. So all we got to do is keep you down so the prophecy doesn't get fulfilled. That was a cool twist. That was a really cool. Please play Dragon Quest XI. Like, if you don't do anything else.
Oh, I played through that.
No,
one.
I'm talking to the audience.
Yeah. You guys, sorry.
Please play Dragon Quest XI.
Right.
I used to be scared to suggest it to people because I thought they would not play the other Dragon Quest games. They played 11.
Prior to that, I might be forgetting one in there, but the one that I went through to completion was Skies of Arcadia before Dragon Quest 11.
And Skies of Arcadia, I think, is a great one to play.
Oh, that one was so good.
Skies of
That checked
Arcadia.
all the boxes for me.
I still like the Dreamcast version just because I'm that guy, but the GameCube version is the superior release.
Oh yeah, and it's
Far
not like
away.
they really did much to it. All they did was really polish up the mechanics.
They made the encounter rates livable. The encounter
Yeah.
rates in Dreamcast were
Yeah.
abhorrent.
Yeah, but nothing to the story or anything like that.
Speaking of Dreamcast, a Switch release recently, Grandia, the Grandia collection.
That's one of those names that I always hear out there, but I've never tried or looked up into.
Great pair of JRPGs.
Really?
Fantastic.
Oh, two of them even.
For a very different feel of JRPG, I am a huge fan of the Tales series.
That has a release on Switch now.
Wait, there's a Tales game on Switch?
Tales of... am I thinking of the right one?
Yeah, Tales of, but I didn't know one released for the Switch.
I thought it did. Tales of Mana?
Oh no, I think that's a Secret of Mana sequel.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, but
It is Secret of Mana. That one's in it. There's the sequel to it, and then there's a third one that never got released
Legend
out.
of Mana, and then another third one. But the Tales of series is great. I just got Tales of Vesperia for the Xbox One not too long ago. It was the 10th anniversary edition. Fantastic games. It is an active battle. It's not turn-based at all.
Yeah.
You set a strategy for your allies, and you just sort of whack, and there's different ways to control it.
Yeah.
Very different, but everything else plays like a JRPG. You get your
Right.
potions. Well, there's gels in that game. And,
Yeah.
And because of the way Final Fantasy VII Remake's going to play,
Yeah.
and because of who's directing it, Tetsuya Nomura, I think a great game to play to get ready for it would be Kingdom Hearts 2.
Really?
I honestly do. I think Kingdom Hearts 2 is the most Tetsuya Nomura game he ever made.
Now, would there be, besides Final Fantasy VI, what about Final Fantasy X, X2, or 12? I'm thinking of Switch releases.
10 would... I think 10 would... Yeah, I mean...
I feel the internal opinion.
I love 10. I love 10. I think 10's a masterpiece. I just don't know that it's a... It was sort of... Well, no, hang on. 10 was kind of the signal that JRPGs were shifting. We went away from a world map to more interactive areas between sites. We...
Wasn't it one of the first Final Fantasies on PS2?
It was the first Final Fantasy on PS2.
It was a huge deal, I remember, when it came out.
It was a gigantic deal because at first everyone was mad because the character you played as, Titus, was a jock.
Yeah.
They didn't like that. He is a professional sports player.
Yeah.
As we play the game, we find out there's much more to it than that.
Yeah. Which, not too many spoilers, haven't played through it.
Oh, of course. But 10 has a wonderful cast. Tetsuya Nomura was back on character design.
Yeah.
And Nobuo Uematsu, he of course was experienced burnout from Final Fantasy IX. I think he recorded like 100. I think he composed like 149 tracks for Final Fantasy IX.
Wow.
Still killed it on the 10 soundtrack.
Yeah.
Killed it. After you watch this, just search Xanarkand piano cover on YouTube. Beautiful.
Keep that in mind.
Beautiful music. But 10, I think 10 is interesting. It shows what happened exactly between the PlayStation generation and the PlayStation 2 generation for JRPGs, and it was a marked difference. Like, it's a huge difference.
I remember when it came out. Even looking back on it now, it's like, oh, how was I thinking that with the crazy graphics that we have now? But I remember thinking how cinematic it looked.
Oh, it looked real. It looked flat out real. It was an incredible looking game. I remember when Kingdom Hearts came out, and I was not a Kingdom Hearts fan when it first came out. I didn't actually have a PlayStation 2, but I came into it later. But I remember seeing screen caps of Kingdom Hearts 2 and just being amazed by the facial expressions.
Yeah. Oh, I used to think the main girl in 10 looked like the Japanese Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, Yuna, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Japanese Jennifer Aniston's a pretty good description, actually. So, these genre tropes sort of come through in the JRPG. The destined hero
Yeah.
You're very rarely playing just some Joe. There's
Right.
always something special about you,
Yeah.
even if you believe you're just some Joe at the beginning. This is why Don probably does not enjoy them that much, because
No.
Don loves you to just be some guy in a
Yeah.
video game.
A random dude caught up in a huge.
I think the only thing he likes about Oblivion at all is the fact that you're not the chosen one. The guy you're taking orders from is the chosen one.
Yeah.
And I think that's enough to make it to where he absolutely loves it. But I think that's
Yeah.
the only thing he does
Yeah.
about it. So JRPGs, you're not going to find a lot of regular schmoes.
Right.
There's always something very special about you. Or if not you, the girl you're traveling with.
Yeah.
The girl. There's always something special about the girl. A great example of that, in sort of the swan song of the PlayStation era JRPG, my cousin Cody and I loved this game, Legend of Dragoon. An absolute incredible...
Does that have anything to do with Panzer Dragoon?
Nothing.
No. Okay.
Nothing.
I saw
Panzer
that one was
Dragoon
getting re-released.
Was Sega set? Are they releasing Panzer Dragoon Saga?
I want to say that there's something with the Switch coming for it.
Man,
I need to fact check myself on that, but I've been
That's
hearing
a,
that. I've been hearing Panzer Dragoon's name dropped. It's either a download or I don't think it's having a physical copy, but I thought it had a download.
I honestly think we're coming to the end of the physical copy era.
Oh,
I think people that go out and buy a video game,
at least give me a box with a download code in
I
it.
did buy Kakarot just because
Yeah.
Walmart had it $10 cheaper than digital. But
Yeah.
I think I think the amount of people that are going to buy video games physically are going to wind up being the amount of people that are buying CDs.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a very small minority, but
Which sucks for anybody on HughesNet. I might be hitting up your place for some downloads.
And it's a HughesNet, for those of you that don't know, is this horrible option you have in rural
Satellite.
areas.
Yeah, it's
It's
amazing
satellite
this works.
This is the will of God
Yeah.
making this happen.
Yeah. Squeezing a turkey in a toaster.
But it's just sort of weird to talk about JRPGs, because it almost feels like you're talking about the same game over and over again, but they're different enough.
Yeah.
It's really like loving a genre of music.
Yeah.
All these bands have all the bands within a genre sound very similar. That's
Yeah.
why a genre forms.
Yeah.
But there's still so much charm and individuality to each different
Yeah.
one.
Is it Soundgarden? Is it Audio Slave? I don't care.
Right. And I would say there's a huge difference between Soundgarden and Audioslave. I would say the only similarity is they have the same singer.
Yeah.
I would say that I'd be comfortable saying it ends there.
Yeah.
But I think I might actually like Audioslave better than Soundgarden when I really sit and think about it.
I would have a hard time telling you which one is which.
You're not like a huge, for someone that's so talented at playing music, you're not a huge.
You're giving me a lot of credit.
Hey. But I'm gazing at a exorbitantly expensive baby grand piano as you play coy about your ability to play music. So it's kind of a difficult genre to explain to people how much fun it is, because especially as a kid in the 90s, because it was not huge. JRPGs were not huge in the early 90s.
No, and try and explain that to your 8-year-old best friend.
Right, because what it is it's very grindy.
Right.
Especially in the old days. Very grindy.
A lot of reading.
A whole lot of reading, a whole lot of story.
Yep.
My son is 9, and he doesn't hate cutscenes, but he's not fond of them. If they all happen at the end of the game, like he's beaten 2 video games in his whole life. He's beaten Super Mario Odyssey, and he's beaten Kirby Star Allies.
Yeah.
He says he beat Minecraft because he beat the Ender Dragon, but I don't think it works that way.
It's an accomplishment for sure.
It's an accomplishment for sure, but I don't think there's a credit scroll after you kill the Ender Dragon.
No, not in Minecraft.
So, but kid's crazy about Minecraft. No cutscenes whatsoever.
Right.
They
Which is the opposite with Jalen, because super story driven. She'd almost be okay with pressing A and it going, just that being what you get to the next scene for.
Oh, and my daughter Ripley loves watching me play Kingdom Hearts. In fact, it's kind of weird because she didn't like Frozen until I played Arendelle in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh wow!
And there was something about seeing the song in a video game I was playing, and she was just like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah."
Sonata." So now we deal with that.
Jalen would probably like Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, Kingdom Hearts is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it has one of the hugest fantasy JRPG tropes, and that is saving the princess.
Exactly. If not multiple, I imagine.
Princesses love getting saved in JRPGs.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, and it's multiple princesses in Kingdom Hearts. There's a lot of Disney princesses.
Yeah.
But so I would strongly suggest digging in with those games.
When does the DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3 come out?
5 days from today.
Oh my god, that's close.
It's very close. I will not have Kakarot beaten. I'll have to put Kakarot on hold.
Yeah.
And I will be playing this DLC because we are actually, speaking of JRPGs, we are getting the Final Fantasy characters back.
Yeah.
In the Remind DLC. And I'm super stoked about that because there's this huge, not a huge cliffhanger in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Right.
But there's this kind of moment where like we're on the precipice of something happening with these guys.
Yeah.
And then we just don't hear from them at all in Kingdom Hearts 3. Which Nomura made a good point. The only reason there were ever Final Fantasy characters in Kingdom Hearts was to sell it to more hardcore gamers.
Yeah. Because
otherwise, it's a Mickey Mouse adventure.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a hard pitch. It's great for kids, but it's a harder pitch for teenagers.
For never of playing any one of these JRPGs, it's kind of a hybrid between brands. I always wonder how I'm going to be receptive to that. So Kingdom Hearts I haven't played, and another one you actually mentioned that I sound, this is probably sacrilege for any video gamer, but the Mario RPG. I always forget about that one.
Super Mario RPG, man, that's such a great. Is it on the SNES?
I think it is on the Switch online. Check it out.
Yeah,
might as well.
But man, Super Mario RPG is just such a fun, charming game. Like,
yeah,
it was developed by SquareSoft.
It was
one of the last things they did in partnership with Nintendo. Before they had a huge falling out.
Right.
And let's see here. I'm fairly. Gosh, I'm gonna be so shocked if it's not.
Or was it an?
It was a Super Nintendo game. I can't believe it's not on here. That's wild. That's just. Why wouldn't it be? Why do I keep doing that?
Guess not.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. This is one of those, that Demon's Crest game. It's one of those games that you see when you go to the video rental store and you're like, that's so rad. Like, he's holding the skull. And he's a demon.
Luke was trying that game actually for a little bit, and about wanted to throw the controller at the TV.
Yes.
It was
obscenely
notoriously
difficult.
hard.
But the Super Mario RPG, oh my gosh. It's actually on the SNES Mini. See if you can borrow Don's.
Oh, he does have that. I keep forgetting about that.
But it's, man, it is such a good game. And the story is surprisingly deep for a Mario game. It really is.
Did you ever play the Paper Marios?
The Paper Mario, man, another great example. The Paper Marios, especially Paper Mario, and then the direct sequel, The Thousand Year Door for the GameCube. Thousand Year Door for the GameCube is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, it's an incredible game. The story is just, it's a roller coaster. It really is for
I might have
Mario
to go through
game.
that one. I still have a GameCube.
And what's interesting about the story of a JRPG is they could tell a really long, protracted story. Because the nature of a video game, the nature of a JRPG, you want it to be 80 hours when you buy it.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
That's one thing. I read an article not long ago for a person that completed Outer Worlds. And they were first going into it thinking, oh my God, this is going to be like a Fallout game, New Vegas, where I can spend anywhere from 40 to 80 hours on the game. But to their unexpected and pleasant surprise is anywhere from 25 to 30 hours is what they put. And the person said that they're in their younger 30s. They have a job, they have kids, and they're saying 30 hours just feels right. It felt good. He got the story in. Mm-hmm. It was in a doable amount of time, which I know you can sympathize with. In some of these games, getting too long, almost seem overwhelming. Whereas back when we were in school, we could spend we could spend the summer playing them, or just a long weekend with no care in the world. We could burn through some of those really long games.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have a job in high school, it's
But
still...
with that said, by the time I was done with Dragon Quest 11 and I saved the game and I go back to the load screen and I noticed that I have 68 hours logged on this thing. Didn't even feel like it because it was so good.
Right.
I was so engaged with it, it didn't matter.
I don't want a game to be long just to be long. I want it to be long because that's how long it's going to take.
The length is
to be the
just
game.
right no matter what.
And exactly, that's the best way to put it. And the thing is, with length, as I play games, as I get older, there's several games I've noticed the older I get, that as I played through them, I would get to a point where I'm like, okay.
Yeah, really.
Okay. Like, I'm really ready to be done. And I did not experience that in Fallen Order.
Yeah.
For the game as a whole. I think Fallen Order is a fantastic game. I can't wait to do a podcast with Don about it.
Oh, he's going to love it.
I love Fallen Order, but I will say Dathomir,
Yeah.
that specific world, yes, there was a point where I was just like, I'm ready to go when you are.
There's
Cal.
only too many.
Like,
what is that?
falls all the time there. Like just shoddy structure.
It
Like
wasn't that wasn't the part that got me so much. It was the people running up on me, but I can't remember that race of
the Night
aliens.
Brothers. The Night Brothers were such an annoying
Yeah.
enemy. The Night Sisters weren't bad because they were
Yeah.
zombified. They died really easily, but the Night
Yeah.
Brothers were just,
Oh yeah,
it's like a whole world of scout troopers.
yeah,
Like scout troopers, yeah, that's fun because you're basically saber dueling. But you know what? At one point, I just want to hit the trigger and deflect these blasts back at you.
yeah.
But play that game, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good game.
It's a very good game. I was pleasantly surprised. I held out too because I didn't want to support EA in any way.
No, and boy, what a funny turn of events. That's a podcast for another time, though.
I've actually, just real quick, I've actually heard that they've done so much patching to Battlefront 2 that it's actually good now. People are hesitant to believe it, but I'm hearing a lot of people that actually actively play it say, no, it's legit good now. So I think at the end of the day, there's almost no bad advice to give you. Like, I can't think of just a rotten JRPG to tell you about.
No, I'm kind of like, I know I'm going to get through Breath of Fire 2 probably in the next week or two. And then I've got February and March. So I'm starting to think of like 2 or 3 JRPGs that I can start playing to get up to that April 10th release, which that's going to be an expensive April. Not only do I got to get the Final Fantasy VII Remake, but a console to actually run it. But I'm going to try and hit another like 16-bit era, and I'm going to try and get like an early 2000s and just lead myself up to the 2020 time frame.
Here we go. I'll just give you one for each era.
Oh, yes.
So to get the 16-bit era, I would strongly suggest starting over and finishing Chrono Trigger. Can't think of a better one. In fact, if you want to even go back further to the 8-bit era of JRPG.
Nope, I found that out with Breath of Fire 1. I'm going to take your advice on Chrono Trigger, though.
Well, hang on, because if you want a more cerebral game, and because this one isn't going to be pure 8-bit, it's actually going to be an updated UI and everything because they've done re-releases of it. I think Dragon Quest 3. It's my favorite Dragon Quest game of all time.
Yeah.
You choose your party. You can upgrade them as you go along.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
What year did that one come out?
The original release was 86 or so. I think it's...
Wow.
I think. It's very old.
Yeah.
Very, very old. Dragon Quest 1, of course, predates Final Fantasy.
Right.
By a whole year, I believe.
Yeah.
So... Dragon Quest 3, it's one of my favorite. It's my favorite Dragon Quest game. So I would suggest that one. For the 16-bit era, Chrono Trigger, absolutely. For the PlayStation era, I would suggest Legend of Dragoon.
Really?
Just to give you that sort of, because in that era there was a huge thing of you made your JRPG stand out by you had a different battle system.
Yeah.
And the battle system in Legend of Dragoon operates off of hitting a button at a specific time when you're swinging your sword to do maximized damage. So, and the story of Legend of Dragoon is just absolutely, man, that is just pure. And, of course, the bad guy's name is Lloyd, which always cracks me up.
Freaking Lloyd. He lives 2 houses down.
For the
He's always revving his Mustang when he goes to work.
the commercials for Legend of Goon were great because it was Dart, the main character, and Lloyd dueling, and then Lloyd gets his head cut off.
Oh, wow.
He says he cut my head off, and it's this really silly
Yeah.
late '90s commercial.
Yeah.
I think it was the year 2000. But for the next generation of JRPG, Final Fantasy X, a staple, an absolute staple because it showed the transition. But I think Tales of Symphonia would be my choice there on the GameCube. It's been re-released several times. I believe it has a Steam release.
Gotcha. That one sounds so familiar. I want to say I've seen it on the eShop even.
Tales of Symphonia is just, it's a great game.
Yeah.
It's a great game. One of the best JRPG stories of all time.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely one of the best of all time. It is you will love it. It feels, when you end it, it feels like you just watched a really good anime.
Really?
That's the feeling you get from it. And then for I don't even know what I'd say for the previous generation of consoles. The one that came before this one. Nope. I know what I would say. I would say Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii.
Really? Okay.
It was very different. The story in that was just incredible. The ending was just something you didn't see at all.
What did you think of the sequel? Did you ever get to play
I
the
think
sequel?
Xenoblade 2 was great. I've never finished it, but I think it was great.
Really?
That is an expansive game, dude. That is absolutely...
I know Luke would really like going through it.
And then for the...
I know there's nothing in common, but just thinking of the same name, Xenogears is one of Don's favorite
There's
games.
something in common. It's the same people that developed it.
Oh, well, no, the universes are different, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And as far as the modern era, I don't know. I think we've yet to see... I know this current generation is coming to an end, but I think we've yet to see our great... Well, what am I talking about? I'm just saying that because you've already played it. But Dragon Quest XI is. And
if anything, it gets folks ignited into that area.
But for me, personally, because I'm just such a huge fan, I think the best thing you do for JRPGs is just to start at 1 and play Dragon Quest.
Gotcha.
I think that's the best thing you do. I think it's everything you need. I will admit 2 is a bit of a slog nowadays.
Yeah.
Dragon Quest 2 is...
I tried 1, and that one was rough.
1 is rough just because it's a very crude game, because it was in the beginning. But Dragon Quest 1 just touched so many artists that I admire. Like, I'm actually reading through Naruto right now, the manga.
Yeah.
And at the end of specific chapters, he just writes a little bit about his personal life, the mangaka. And I guess him and his dad played Dragon Quest a lot, the original one.
Yeah.
And just sort of hearing him describe how it was, not really having a lot, because Dragon Quest pretty much invented the JRPG genre. There were no ones before that. So, but I think Dragon Quest is the heart and soul of JRPG.
Yeah.
I think it's just, it's Alabama.
Yeah, it is Alabama.
Just
what would be? No, it might be Leonard Skinner.
No, it's Hank Senior.
Yes,
because it's
the
originator.
Yeah.
It's Hank Senior. Yeah.
I was like, I can't give Alabama to Dragon Quest. That's they've had more than two good songs.
I don't know. Alabama's had a lot of great songs, but
sure
that was a very condescending. I'm sure they have.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think Don's awful fond of most Alabama music.
That would be a surprise to me.
He sings along.
He does. He knows a curious amount about music that you wouldn't guess.
But that would be my suggestion. And again, there's almost nothing. I can't think of any examples that are just god awful.
Right.
I can't off the top of my head. It's sort of a hard genre to mess up. It's
pretty predefined in what
in
you
its complexity.
Need to do. Yeah.
It's kind of like when you find out there's a new like back in the day when there was a new Schwarzenegger movie coming out.
Yeah.
You know you're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
This is gonna be good. It might not be great as a movie, but you know you're gonna have fun.
That's kind of the way it is with Pokemon, isn't it?
Yeah, it might.
Doesn't matter what it is.
It might shock you how fantastic it is. Like T2.
Yeah.
Like Terminator 2 is one of the greatest examples of cinema ever. Like it changed the way we made movies.
Yeah.
Like, but it's just I don't the JRPG genre, man. It's just weird. It's just weird. You just got to dig in and get in there.
It's a good weird.
It's a very good weird. But it's had such an influence over gaming in general. In fact, a lot of people that play Dungeons and Dragons now will supplement their own rules for MP rather than spells per day.
Yeah.
Because they just like MP better. Like, who wouldn't? You could just sling spells all day. Or some form of mana regeneration like a MMO.
Yeah.
That's another thing we didn't cover was JRPG MMOs.
No. Oh, we could go on for a
Final
while.
Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy 14, Dragon Quest 10.
Yeah.
But you're right. We could just go on and on. But I think we covered some really good titles.
I think we did too. I've got some now that I've taken mental note of during this conversation. It's likely going to happen.
Yeah, and of course you won't have time to really dig into the genre before the release of and Final Fantasy VII Remake, of course, has a more active battle in the same vein as Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 15. So
yeah.
I believe I did see where there's options to make it turn-based.
Ah, okay.
I think I saw that.
Yeah. From the demos I've seen, it looks as close to it as you can get, though.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be fantastic. I can't get over how great everything looks.
Oh my god.
It just looks incredible.
I have 2 or 3 of the new renditions of music just on my playlist in my truck.
Oh yeah, and I think it's some of Uematsu's finest composing that he did for the series in Final Fantasy VII. But there's a reason 7 endures to us. There's a reason 7's getting a full remake when no other Final Fantasy has gotten a full. Well, I think the remake. I think 1 has technically been remade. But how hard was it to do that? But it's. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be the biggest game of the year.
Oh my god! Yeah.
I don't think Doom Eternal is gonna beat it. I don't think like.
It's a tall order, but
I do really enjoy that Doom guy's arms are exposed in Doom Eternal.
Oh
like,
my god, yeah.
I really enjoy the hey man, demons are back on Earth. Well, time to let the boys breathe.
That one's a fun game. It's not quite art.
I mean,
Don might argue with me on that.
The original Doom changed the way we made video games. Absolutely. Because Doom was like 89. Like, that's incredible. Certainly one of the most controversial games. I think Mortal Kombat, I think, are the 2 most controversial video games ever. Like, that's why when Conker's Bad Fur Day came out in 2001, no one cared.
Yeah, really.
Because we were already desensitized.
D&D levels of controversy.
Oh, yeah. Doom was blamed for a lot of horrible things that happened.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, JRPGs have never gotten that kind of bad press.
Nope, they're pretty cut and dry and
you're
wholesome.
You're a pure hero going to fight the Dark Lord. Mom's not going to be mad.
No. You're on the side of justice.
But anyway, that's our podcast for this week, guys. It is not what you're used to hearing. And we may have slogged through it a bit, but we're just sort of trying to branch out. We're going to do different things. 2020 is going to be good. But don't fear if you like what we have been doing, because, of course, we will still be going back to our old standards of walking you psychologically through the narrative of very strange video games. Nier blew my mind. I'm still reeling from Nier. And at first, when he was when we were doing that cast, I was like, "Man, I can't believe I've never played this game before." And the other day, I was actually listening to it, and I rarely ever listen to the podcast, but I was listening to it. And I was like, "Man, I am so glad I heard it from Don first."
Yeah, really.
I can't imagine the game telling it better than Don did. But
one of these game developers need to hire him.
So. Just stay tuned through 2020. We've got a lot of really cool game releases coming out.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking about that. And, if you like listening to us talk, subscribe, hit the bell. Your phone will tell you when we're talking again. Share with your friends. And just don't be afraid to engage us. You know,
Nah.
we're just a couple average Joes.
Leave us a comment and have a good day.